Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 583, recorded live on Sunday, December 8th. I'm your host, Patrick. I will be doing the news by myself this week. This week's screenshot: Yori Bang Bob saddles up for an adventure in the 443rd DDO screenshot of the week. Thanks, Goza, for sending in this week's screenshot. Another horse, no surprise there. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we've got part 2 of our Past Life Prioritization Epic Lives with Nimvind and Voodoo, which we recorded last weekend. So we'll get you a part 2 of that today. We've also got a little bit of news, had a little update, a patch, so we can get to talk about that as well, but not really a whole lot of crazy stuff going on. But we'll jump into game news. Cordovan did kind of give us an advance warning about the patch and the gesture coming, so we'll talk about that. But the big one was precision, and by extension, defensive fighting. So Steel Star looked at the feat Precision, which is a pretty popular feat. So Precision and a few other abilities in-game alter a set of properties that don't appear in the character sheet currently. They're applied as flat chances after your attack value is calculated, altering the overall chance to hit against the enemy's defense by the listed percentage. This is the method by which proficiency works. Building a proficiency weapon boosts this value by 20%. So conversely, you're 20% less likely to hit when you're not proficient with your current weapon. This is working properly. Elven cores use this as well, and they are also working properly. What isn't working properly are the two abilities that use this method via toggles. When the AC rework was done back around Menace of the Underdark, 2 toggles were altered to use this method: precision and defensive fighting. Unfortunately, they were done in a way where when you have the feat, the bonus or penalty always applies, even when the feat isn't toggled on. Oops. So, in short, currently, if you have precision, the 5% chance to hit is always on, even if the toggle isn't. Currently, if you have defensive fighting, and most characters do, you get that as a bonus feat once you have base attack bonus +1, I believe. The minus 5% penalty to hit chance is always on, even if the toggle isn't. So, that's bad. He has fixed that, so the bonuses and penalties only apply when toggled on as intended, which they're hoping to get out as soon as we can. Determining how and where it shows up on the character sheet, and then implementing that is a substantially larger task than fixing the bug. It will not be in the patch with the fix, which is, I believe, what was kind of got the deep dive into precision in the first place. Someone was asking, hey, precision doesn't seem to be affecting my numbers on my character sheet that I now have many more numbers of. Can you look at that? So that's what we got from that. Update 44, patch 1 was released. Special note, the festival. Festival cookies begin appearing on Thursday, December 5th. The Jester of Festivalt will arrive Thursday, December 12th, so that'll be this coming week. The festival cookie drops will end Monday, January 6th, and the Jester will leave on Monday, January 13th. So you have a little bit of time afterwards to turn all of that stuff in. It looks like we'll be getting coins for about a month, so it's pretty nice. Let's see, other stuff from the release notes. We already talked about the precision and defensive fighting changes. Those are now applied. Regarding the Wish of Inheritance, wands, quivers, and missile weapons now work with it. They were not previously. That is different from, there were a whole bunch of items that for some reason weren't working, but they were able to change that without patching previously. The Wish of Inheritance also no longer goes into ingredients bags. where it was apparently you'd buy it and wonder, hey, where is it? Well, it was in your ingredient bag. The in-game description of the Traveler's Terrific Trunk now properly states that it gives Sovereign 1 experience elixirs and Major Slayer boost potions instead of superior experience elixirs and greater Slayer boost potions. Maybe an indication that it may be coming back in the near future. It wouldn't surprise me if it was part of the December deals. Let's see. Evard's Black Tentacles is now much easier to cast while you have a foe selected and will no longer be placed in an inconvenient manner to yourself or your enemies. The short version, to my understanding of what was happening there, was Evard's Black Tentacles was casting as an object that would conflict with another creature in terms of space. So you know how you bounce off of monsters? That's what the Tentacles was doing. It was bouncing off the monitors, and the game was essentially like shifting it over so that it would have its own space to occupy. Monster Manual, the deed requirements have been increased for bears, dretches, and mudmen. So you will need to kill more of them for that. I'm not sure if that's the account deeds or the player-specific deeds, or both. Mounts. They now do a Dressed's dance when the dance emote is used while mounted. I'm sure people will love that. Dismounting now properly resets a player's swim skill. Okay. I didn't know that it was resetting your sim skill to begin with. Kind of interesting. Players can no longer be mounted in the quest Red Willow's Runes. Players will now dismount in tavern zones, which includes the airship. So players were kind of didn't really like the lore value of people using horses in a tavern, and it kind of made those smaller spaces a little cramped as well. Mounts will work in the wilderness areas of the Underdark, and some additional animation-related work was done. For quests, they did a bunch of kind of small quest work, particularly about the Borderlands. Getting in and out of the Borderlands, you will now should be able to recall out of the keep of the Borderlands wilderness area more consistently. The Gatekeeper and the Hall of Heroes in Korthos will now send you directly to the keep public area as opposed to the wilderness area just outside of the keep, so that's kind of nice. The Return Portal now also provide options to return to either the Hall of Heroes or Korthos, as well as the keep exit. So it makes it a little easier to get out of there if you'd like. Let's see. They fixed some stuff with the crests and charms and stuff, so they no longer drop on death and are easier to pick up. Made some small landscape changes. Did a couple of small things to some of the quests. Let's see. Other stuff of note. Not going to read all of the quest changes, but Smash and Burn, a ladder and platform were added to make the jump room easier to navigate for characters with a low jump score. The low jump modifications for that quest continue. Special cargo crates now sparkle. The idea here is to make them easier to find, because you could hunt for them pretty hard to find sometimes. See, they also have fewer mobs spawning in the first hallway. Fresh Baked Dreams. This was part of Flimsy's nerfing quests in nerfing content into the ground campaign. So there's fewer wolves and earth animals now spawn, and the hags no longer cast Comet Fall or Acid Fog. Additionally, the chest in the windmill is now the end chest. Kind of interesting. And there's a second end chest. It says in the windmill for players who complete the hard optional. I believe that is. I believe that is more about the. It's probably the one that he's on the hill that exists currently. I think, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. Or perhaps that if you do choose to do that, you'll get a second chest in the windmill. I'm not exactly sure. It seems a little weird to say a second end chest in the windmill for the hard optional, which I would assume would be the kill the hag outside of the windmill later. Stopping the Sahagin, they reduced the damage from one of the traps. That would be the cold trap at the end, which their data told them was very deadly on hardcore and killed many players, including Flimsy. Let's see, the Amber Temple, the absent-minded Lich is once again helpful towards players and can be helped by magical means, but will no longer help if he gets hurt. So that can be a thing. In Madness of Crowds, they fixed an issue. So speaking with Braun Pitts when he returns counts towards an objective whether the Rest Shrine was used or not. Basically, in the end fight, if you didn't use the shrine, you could end up not getting the quest to complete. That was kind of an issue there. Best laid plans, they fixed an issue that could cause the quest to not complete if players killed enemies too quickly. And perhaps one of my favorite notes in recent history, Slavers of the Shrieking Mines. The failure condition has been removed, and 2 optionals have replaced it. Rescuing miners will now give extra XP instead of failing the quest. The map has also been made less confusing. If you haven't done Slavers of Shrieking Mines, which would not be surprising since that is a quest that is kind of buried. It's one of the ones in the Restless Isles, so it's not popular content to begin with. But also getting there is very difficult and very painful, especially if you don't know the way, and is kind of hazardous since there's all sorts of places where you can fall and die. Usually what people will do is they'll get someone else to share the quest with them to make it easier to get there. You can just teleport once you have the quest active. But in this quest, there's a whole bunch of miners, and the idea is to not kill them because they're slaves to ogres. And if you killed, I think, 10 or 11 of them, you would actually fail the quest. And at several points, there's traps that are being triggered by miners that you're not supposed to kill. So if you don't kill them, then you have to deal with the traps. So very annoying. And I am all for quests not having failure conditions in them. There's other ways you can make things interesting there, and I like the optional XP. There were some people who didn't really like this change, and Flimsy helpfully pointed out, perhaps a little too snarkily, that you could run it as normal, and if you kill 10 of them, just recall and restart. But I for one am in favor of not having failure conditions in quests like that. So, Linabelle also posted that she had completed the work to make it so that you can pass feathers for horses and mounts in chest, but it did not merge. She did not merge it with the patch. She apologized for that and said it will be live when update 45 happens at the very latest. I assume if there's a patch before that, then we will get that as well. Bonus days for the week, or for the weekend, you can get plus 10% heroic and epic XP now through December 8th. So that's today is the time of this recording. Also, for our store sales, the sale for the week is Bigger is Better. You get 20% off of Sovereign Guild Renown Elixirs, the 25 stack, the 100 stack of Superior Spell Point Potions, 100 stack of Gold Seal Potions of Sovereign Healing, and Colossal Ingredient and Augment Bags. You can also get a free Summoned Repair Shop with the coupon code IFIXIT through December 12th. Also through December 12th, we have December deals have arrived. So you can get 35% off of character slots. You may need that with your hardcore characters if you are transferring them to a place you have many characters already. You can also get 50% off of Hearts of Blood and Dalara's Tomb, and 75% off of the Veil of Twilight. That's a really good deal. You don't have Veil of Twilight, get it now. 75% off is a great deal, and that's good content. Still very popular around Horn, so get that if you haven't gotten it yet. Community news, the 362nd Chronicle dropped. Cordovan recently held a special Black Friday live stream in support of Movember. That was the community spotlight for the week. The guild for the week, Valkyries of Kyber, is a no-pressure, fun, and friendly guild on Kyber that seeks all players of all levels. You can find out more through their link. The comment, which festival cookies taste the best? Oh boy, that's an interesting question. It kind of depends on the year, right? Sometimes they change around. I haven't even looked to see what has changed this year. There's usually something that changes. A couple of them change every year, so it really just kind of depends on what magical effects, because that magical aftertaste can definitely impact the tastiness. Fan site news: we got a shout out for our episode last week, beginning our Epic Past Lives prioritization discussion. DDO players discover that evil is the other neutral. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. You can find recent shows by Akio, D&D Night, our tabletop groups, and Samus Karobo. Other Twitch streamers are also playing DDO. There are some recent shows by Strimtom, Vooduspyce, and Arrow Havoc. YouTube is also home to DDO streaming. There are recent shows by MJ, Sea of Galanda, and Dirty William. D&D night on DDO stream will be tonight. It'll be a recorded episode of our Stormreach Chronicles campaign. That is where I have translated DDO somewhat loosely to tabletop, to 5th edition D&D. So playing that should be playing tonight. And then, let's see, other videos. Axel had a video on his YouTube page. He didn't put it on the forums, but it was called it a rant. Basically, why he doesn't like the Wish of Inheritance. If you're interested in hearing his thoughts on that, we'll link to that as well. Let's see. That will kind of wrap up the news portion. So we'll get into the Past Life Prioritization Epic Lives Part 2 here in a moment. But thanks for listening to the show, and thanks to my guests for the Past Life Prioritization. It would be Voodoo and Nimvind, and for all the other folks that help make DDOCast happen, and to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage, or you Twitch DDO, and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up there at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be a part of the show, if you have a comment on the episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment, or you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I'm at DDOcast on Twitter, and you can find us on Facebook as well. So stay tuned for Part 2 of our Past Life Prioritization Epic Past Lives, Part 2 with our guests Nimvind and Vooduspyce. All right, welcome back. We are continuing our discussion on Past Life Prioritization Epic Lives. This is Part 2. With me this week again, we have Nimvind.
Merry Nimbus.
And Voodoo.
Hey, everyone.
The results from the poll are in. It's a tie. You're equally charming. We polled many people, or at least we polled one. Anyways.
We pulled their leg.
Oh, boy. All right. Last time, we were talking about Past Life. We're talking about Epic Lives. So we kind of covered the mechanics of Epic Lives and the Divine Sphere. We're going to talk about the Martial and Arcane Sphere today. So just to kind of recap a little bit, the big ideas here is you get a passive bonus for each of the past life feats, and you get a stance from each of the past lives. You can only have one stance from each sphere active at a time. Because you can have 4, right? You can have an Arcane, Divine, Martial, and Primal all active at the same time. But you can only have one of each. But the passive, which is the same for all 4 feats, you can stack those up. These all stack to 3. I think that's kind of the main points, right? Kind of the big picture. If you need more information about how to get past life feats up, you listen to our show from last week. Or if you're listening to this live, hey, you get it all at once. Congratulations. So let's Martial. We're going to start with plus the Martial Sphere. The passive for all of these is +2 AC per stack of this past life, +1 per 10 character levels. So at level 30, each of these feats is going to get you 5 AC. There's 12 of these. So what was that, 60 AC?
Yeah.
which is not an insignificant amount. I would say that this is probably still the I would say this is the least useful passive feat.
I would say it's second to last for me. I'm a big fan of Prime and the Primal and Divine passives.
Yep.
And this one kind of is more handy than the Arcane one, in my opinion. But I could be wrong.
I'm gonna put a big asterisk on there. Now, AC is, one layer of defense that you typically don't want to dabble in. Like if you're an AC build, then you want every AC that you can get. If you're not, then generally AC isn't a thing. However, if you're doing a lot of heroic past lives, if you had, say, a bunch of these martial passives going, even if you just had a half-assed amount of AC, this on top of that can result in a significant amount of armor class and a meaningful amount of armor class during heroics. So, like I said, if you're doing a lot of heroics,
yeah,
the AC here can be meaningful even if you're not an AC build.
I think that's a great point. And at level 1, we're talking what, plus 24 AC, which at level 1, I mean, that's probably doubling your AC, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
24 extra AC out of the gate at level 1,
Yeah.
and then that turns to
I like it.
36 extra AC from 10 to 20. So even if you had just a small chunk of AC going into it, with that on top of it, you could have a meaningful amount of AC.
Yeah, I like it.
If you're not doing a bunch of heroic lives, well then, not so much.
It's
At end
definitely a
game,
nice
like I
boon.
said, you don't. At end game and in epics, you don't dabble in AC. This is not going to be as meaningful. But in heroics, I give it 2 thumbs up.
I agree. Yeah, it's a really fantastic point. Thank you. Yeah, great point. I would say when you get into kind of more of an end game phase, I think the energy absorption is going to get you more. But like you're saying, until you get to those points where you're taking a large amount of elemental damage, yeah, it's a really great way to go. All right, so the different feats. The first one is double strike, +3 double strike per stack of this life. Generically, I would say that this is probably the for your general kind of martial builds, probably the most useful one out of here, generically. Obviously, if you're not swinging anything, this isn't going to be very helpful.
I'm going to have to say this is the one I always choose for my swashbuckler builds.
Yeah.
So it's a really popular one for me. I think the newer one does have its niche audience too, though.
But I think it's more niche, right?
Yeah.
Because that one's on tactics and assassinate. If you're not doing that, and there's lots of melee builds that don't, I mean, no, obviously if you're using a bow, this is double strike's not going to be useful. Mostly casting spells, double strike's not going to be super useful. If you're playing any of the builds that Vooduspyce uses, double strike is not going to be useful.
No.
So
because I don't play melees. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a caster guy. I'm a tank guy. I don't do melees.
Yeah. Although the new flavor of tank, the bear tank, double strike would be very helpful. But yeah. So there you go. 3% double strike. It's pretty basic. Excuse me. Generically, it's really good for melee builds, especially when you're starting out, right? I don't think we've done very good justice on until recently. The last couple ones. This is a great one when you're starting out in low heroic levels, right? Like 9% double strike on a melee build at level 3.
Yeah, it's really
lot.
handy.
That's way more than you're getting anywhere else, right? So, I think with a full 3 stack of this and gear and stuff, I think I got a couple characters that are in like the 80s, double strike. So a lot in there.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Yeah. The next one we'll talk about is skill mastery. +1 to all skills per stack of this past life.
When I was running for mayor of Stormreach, this was the platform that I ran on. As somebody who doesn't, play melees, this is my go-to stance.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think it's
I
the
mean,
best
this
one out of
is-
here for if you're not doing that, right?
I play stupid builds. I play builds that are like niche and, trying to do things that they probably shouldn't do. So, trying to play a caster druid as a tank, which is just something I enjoy doing, running with +3 to all my skills, hey, that helps me get to that end game intimidate level that I need to intimidate bosses.
I think this is one of those interesting ones because I think it's perhaps the most deceptively useful one in here out of any of the feats. Because you don't realize how much this is going to do for you, right? Assuming you have a point into tumble, it's going to reduce your falling damage. Swimming, when you're doing swimming things that most people don't invest anything into swim, like that can be a big deal.
UMD and heroics.
Barbarian can use scrolls.
Yeah, UMD. I mean, which is fantastic. I mean, it's the most sought after skill in the game, generally speaking. You're talking about +3 to all spell power, basically, right? Because you're gonna add to all of the skills that increase your spell power. So that's nothing to sneeze at. Hey, if you're doing if you're a rogue, doing any trapping stuff, or you're doing any talking bits, where there's DC checks in there, like there's a lot of useful. Even if it's not necessarily the one that you're in the most, I think if you're, you can swap it in and use it when you need it, right? Especially in lower levels with trapping and stuff like that. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck down there. So.
Yeah, this is your go-to stance for your non-melees.
Yeah. And like I said, it's really deceptive. You wouldn't think it would be the one that you would want to go to, but when you kind of get into a lot of that stuff, I think it becomes instantly a more useful one. Okay, the next one, fortification.
I still haven't gotten this one yet, believe it or not.
No, This I think is. And this is one of those ones, it's kind of deceptive in the other way, right? So this one gives you +10 fortification per stack of this past life. And heroics, I can see it's not too bad. An extra 30% will do a fair amount of good for you. Especially when you're talking about, champions these days being able to bypass fortification, even at lower levels. I had 105% fortification yesterday, running Von 4, and there was a champion that critically hit me for 160 some odd damage twice in a row.
The new Despair Reapers are breaking down your fort too.
Yeah. So there's some stuff there, but even so,
doesn't Blade Forge Past Life gives you fortification too?
It does. Yeah. The active one does. Yeah. Although again, I'd say that you're probably getting more bang for your buck out of other choices, from past lives, but I think this is second from the bottom for me of usefulness. In terms of and I'll be honest, part of that comes from the standpoint that if you're a martial class, why are you not using the 9% double strike as opposed to 30% fortification? And if you're not a martial class, so you're using spells or ranged, why are you getting hit and needing an extra 30% of fortification? Maybe a thrower. Like I can get behind a thrower maybe using this one, or a bow build. But I think probably skill mastery is going to be a little bit more better for you possibly. Or if you're using the Falcon, the assassinate DC bonus from the other one that we haven't talked about yet is going to be better for you as well. So I think fortification is really low on my list because I think any other build can get there's a better option for everybody else in this tree. However, that said, it's the most ubiquitously useful one, I think. I mean, anyone can use it, and you'll get a benefit out of it. Any other thoughts you guys want to share on it?
I still hadn't got it because I still can't think of a reason why I would want it besides
I've
the
never used it.
passive.
Pretty low on our list. The new one for Marshall, Ancient Tactics. +2 tactics to tactics DC and +1 to assassinate per stack of this life. So you get up to +6 to your DCs and +3 to your assassinate.
Great for those strength-based monks that still want to stun.
Are there still strength-based monks running around? I thought everyone had converted to wisdom and falconry.
Oh, dude, I was just having a flashback from like 6 years ago.
I mean, a falconry monk is just so much more fun. But yeah, like if you're using DCs, I mean, I think it's a good one to have at the ready. My sense though is I'm still kind of gonna be more wanting to use the double strike. I mean, early in the game, +6 to DCs, to tactics DCs, and +1 assassinate is pretty darn good. But I would point out that when you use those attacks, if you have an extra 9% double strike, that means you have an extra 9% chance of triggering your tactical attack or assassinate. So that's something to consider. I would say maybe if you're having trouble landing stuff, then I might swap into this, but I think I'm still gonna land mostly in the double strike feat choice.
Yeah, double strike is solid, and it's a good big bonus considerate like in its stacks. Double strike is a good place to go. The skills is undoubtedly really good option. The other two, the last one I can only suggest to assassin builds because I've heard assassin rogues complain that they don't get a high enough DC with what they have in the game. So I'm like, oh well. When this feat came out, I'm like, oh, there you go. Here's a bone.
I mean, I think it's a great choice for an ad, right? Like they had to come up with something to add, and I think this fits really well. As far as assassinate goes, I don't think that there's a problem with how high you can get your assassinate DC. I think it's a little harder to. In some ways, it's harder to get the number up high enough to be effective because there's not as many places you can get it. Right? It's not like spells. There's DCs all over the place. Bonuses you can get all over the place. That's not as true with assassinate. However, having said that, if you utilize really good target selection, you can get a lot more bang for your buck out of assassinate. Because if you're assassinating things that have low fortitude saves, constructs, undead both typically have low fortitude saves, and they're kind of a pain otherwise to kill for anybody in general because it's harder to get crits and stuff like that. I mean, my assassin does not have a lot of past lives, and he generally doesn't have a lot of problems assassinating things, except maybe in Sharn. But I don't think a +3 assassinate DC is really going to make or break that difference for the most part. I would say if you're a falconry bow user, this is probably going to be your best choice, because +3 to your falcon attacks is probably going to be better than +3 to skills. Just in a vacuum, but definitely if you're melee, I'm still even a tactics fighter or a monk, I think I'm still leaning towards double strike unless you're running content where you're having trouble landing your DCs. In which case, maybe I'll turn this one on instead. But that's kind of where I think I'm landing on those ones. Anything else out of the Marshall tree, Nimvind? I can see Voodoo's eyes glossing over as we're talking about melees so much here.
I'm surprised the gloss is coming through the webcam.
I mean, it's really easy to see who sits on top of the Marshall stance tree, and that's double strike.
Yeah. Yep. Agree. All right. Let's talk about Arcane Sphere. So this is the passive for this is 1% of energy absorption. We're specifically talking about acid, cold, fire, and electric. I should double check to see if Sonic is actually a part of that. I don't think it is. No, acid, cold, fire, or
Sonic.
electric and fire.
Sonic is. Yeah,
It doesn't say it on the wiki.
it says it right here on your list, and I do use the stance on Voodoo because it affects Sonic.
You're talking
Which
about the
is-
energy criticals, though, not the passive.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back to sleep. Right.
We'll just edit that part out.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No way, it's way too much fun. We finally got him back
Okay.
in the conversation talking about his bread and butter, and he messes the first thing up.
I am engaged.
Energy absorption is the passive part, right? And it's acid, fire, or electric cold. And you can stack that up to 12%, which is not insignificant. And you don't have to be doing things like blocking for it, right? So, now I'm going to say that the primal and divine are more useful in general because they're a little bit more ubiquitous. They're going to work for more things, but energy damage tends to be where you get a lot of spike damage from, especially later in the game once you already have pretty high fortification, right?
Yeah.
Although I tell you, I'm pretty sure that there's some champions that just have I'm going to critically hit you 10% of the time, regardless of what your fortification is. When I'm getting critically hit at like 200 and 300% fortification, there's something weird going on there. Anyways, energy absorption just kind of ubiquitously helpful, especially when you look at from an end game perspective, raids and incoming damage. There's a lot of elemental damage. Now there's a lot of alignment damage now too.
Yeah.
Probably because they've been giving us a lot of elemental absorption stuff and choices, but if you're going into a quest and or raid, like say I don't know, too hot to handle, and you know you're gonna take a lot of fire damage, and you're getting 12% absorption from your past lives, and you've got a 30% item, and you've got energy sheaths for 50%. I mean that really adds up pretty quick. It can be really useful. Also, hey, at lower levels, 12% off of that lightning bolt that Kobold Shamans in the harbor are throwing might save your life. Probably will, actually. 12% is, when they're talking about those numbers there, it's pretty good. So, energy criticals. The first one, Arcane Past Life Stance. 3% critical chance with Acid, Cold, Fire, Electric, and Sonic this time. Per stack of this life. So you can get that up to 9%. And it sounds like this is one that Voodoo likes a lot.
I like it a lot.
Well, I'm probably gonna actually be switching for Voodoo, but not for Ginger. But yeah, 3%. Stack it 3 times, you get 9% crit chance with your elements. That's pretty huge.
Any kind of DPS caster, right? I think this is where you land.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially one that deals specifically with those elements, like Warlock, Sork, Druid, shoot, even Wizard. But there's other things that might help Wizard a tiny bit.
I mean, I think from a caster standpoint, you're looking at entry criticals or arcane alacrity, which I'll go ahead and throw in here, which is cooldowns on your spells are reduced by 3%. This is the one that's weird, right? So it's 3% for the first life, the second life is 6%, and the third life is 10%. It's actually not 369, it's 3610.
I'm not convinced that this stance does anything. I've sat there and timed out spells, and I swear it just doesn't do anything. It definitely does not work on SLAs. And I've tried to run with it with other spells, and it just seems like such a insignificant difference, because okay, so if you have it triple stacked, a reduction of 10%, you have a spell that you can cast every 3 seconds. What's the difference? You can now cast it every 2.7 seconds. I mean,
when you start getting into longer spells, I think you'd notice the difference, but I mean, there's not a lot of those, right? Like, I mean, Power Word Kill has a pretty long cooldown timer. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, a lot of spells from saving 10% casting time off of a 3-second spell cooldown. Are you really going to notice that? You're probably going to cast something else in the middle of that anyways, right? So
I figured it would benefit Wizards since they get such a slow caster time anyways, if it actually did amount to anything, it would benefit them. But generally speaking, there's just so much. This is actually a really good. The past lives in here are really good for casters.
Yeah.
Like they all have a little spot. Well, the original 3 for me. Like I've used every single one of them for a build or other. I feel like they're really well thought out.
I think if you're a DPS caster, Energy Criticals is the obvious one. If you're a DC caster, Arcane Alacrity is the obvious one. Even though it's not actually doing a whole lot, I think Voodoo's totally right. How much are you really getting out of this? But at the same time, if you're just casting fingers and instant death spells and hold monsters and that kind of stuff, you're not getting anything out of extra critical chance either. So, depending on what you're doing as a caster, I think these are kind of the two obvious. If you're a healer, right, I'm going Arcane Alacrity because, I mean, my cleric has like one fire spell, I think, loaded generally that I use. Usually he's doing light damage, so that's not really helping me either.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you on that one.
You're going to go for Enchant Weapon, aren't you?
Nope. If you're a healer, I'm going to say
Ancient
Knowledge.
Sure.
Because if you're a healer, you're probably you're not wearing robes, right? You're wearing medium armor. You might be wearing heavy armor. So you can benefit from that MRR.
So our Ancient Knowledge is +3 MRR per stack of this past life. That's a great point. I mean, +9 MRR is not.
That's very significant.
Yeah. Especially the less you have. Now, I want to come back to that thought in a minute, but I'm
starting to see a pattern with these new ancient stances. They seem to replace the one generic stance in most builds.
I mean, this one, it's funny, right? Because we looked at Ancient Blessings from Divine, which is positive, negative, and repair amplification, which is ubiquitously useful, right? Like, anyone can use more of that. Ancient Knowledge +3 MRR is pretty darn good for most people. The one caveat I kind of put on that is, what's your MRR cap relative to your MRR?
If you're walking around with pajamas on, then you might not be able to benefit from that.
Even my rogue in light armor, right? His cap is, I think, 70. Is it 75 or 100? I can't remember.
I think it's 100. It's 100
it's
with
100, right?
Yeah.
But like,
right?
It doesn't feel like he's ever having a problem hitting that number either with the stuff that you can get in game now, or pretty close anyways. So
my sword can get up to a 70. There's certain ways to raise your cap by 10 here and 10 there, but really, if you can't get it up to a certain amount, it's like, why bother?
Yeah, and the +3 MRR here, you +9 MRR. If it's putting you past your cap, it's not going to do you anything. Now, having said that, at low levels, +9 MRR low level MRR is really hard to get. There's just not a lot of ways to get MRR at low levels. So +9 MRR at level 1 is, I mean, you're talking about having like a 10th level item on pretty easily. So, but if you're medium or heavy armor, then obviously you don't have to worry about the MRR cap. Chat's saying it's 100. So yeah, it's definitely a more ubiquitously useful one. The tactics one is less ubiquitous, right? From the martial tree.
Yeah, it's very specific.
But anyways, +3 MRR stack, nothing to sneeze at if you can use more MRR. Your other option here is Enchant Weapon, which is main hand equipped weapon gains +1 enhancement bonus per enchant weapon past life feat. Note that this stacks with other enhancement bonus effects such as the enchant weapon's spell. I believe this, if it's an implement, it increases your spell power as well.
Yes.
Which, if you're going for DPS casting and you're not using Acid, Cold, Electric, or Fire, or Sonic, I think Enchant Weapon's a great way to go. Assuming you're using an implement, which if you're not using an implement and you're doing DPS casting, I have questions.
And this, prior to Ancient Knowledge coming out recently, this was your default stance if you were not a caster.
Yes, exactly.
Your default arcane stance.
I mean, I use it for all my melees and hybrids and all that. It's really nice. Having a powerful, just increasing the power. Like in melee, right? That's +3 to hit and +3 to damage, right? That's just
Absolutely.
something. Putting some pebbles on my mound.
And isn't implements it's 3 spell power per plus? I'm trying to remember what it is.
Yes, that's correct for implement bonus.
So I mean that's a +9 to spell power. So I would say that if you're going DC casting, I'm probably steering towards Arcane Alacrity. Even though the bonus there is not super great. If you're doing DPS casting with Acid, Cold, Electric, Fire, or Sonic, the obvious choice here is Energy Criticals, right? Like, why would you take anything other than that? Because 9% extra critical chance is huge. Especially when you can talk about like how much extra damage you can get off of a critical. It's insane, especially when you're at level 30 and the amount of damage you can throw out there. It's that, right? If you're doing DPS casting that's not one of those 5 elements, Enchant Weapon is probably your best place if you want to go offensive or defensive, as long as your MRR cap is not hit already. Ancient Knowledge is a great choice here as well. But I think any build is going to benefit, unless you're hitting the MRR cap, is going to benefit from Ancient Knowledge at least as a swap in for, hey, I'm going to go run Too Hot to Handle or Riding the Storm out, and I know I'm going to take a lot of electrical damage. Maybe that extra, it hurts to lose that extra critical chance, but maybe for this raid in this section, I need to have that extra MRR.
On Voodoo, which is my medium armor wearing Fey Pact Warlock, I am running energy criticals, but I haven't picked up. I will be picking up Ancient Knowledge and be running with that when I get a triple stacked.
Yeah.
Just because of getting the extra critical just out of the Sonic damage is not that meaningful. To me, and I would rather get the 9 MRR, which is very significant.
I would agree with you because it's just your pack damage, right?
Yeah.
Which has a save on it, which
is
going to reduce that significantly anyways. I think that the question, I think, becomes a lot, oddly, in the Arcane Sphere, the question becomes more interesting if you're talking about a martial class, either a ranged physical damage or bows, crossbows, throwers, or melee combat, right? Do you want the +3 to attack and damage or the +9 MRR? And that's a question you could have a lot of fun answering. Unless you're a monk, in which case, probably Enchant Weapon, because 50 MRR is not hard to hit at all. If you're at level 30 and you are not hitting 50 MRR, we will help. Send us an email.
Volnut has 12, but he's a Warforged.
I mean, how?
12. You're not allowed to come to raids anymore.
How?
Well, too bad. I lead them.
How are you only hitting 12 MRR at level 30?
I want to be in the next bio documentary by DDO, the lowest MRR Warforged.
Man, we should just have a contest. Put it on the forums, like make the least survivable character, right? Like level 30. We want you to have a set, like you must have a set. We want you to have either a Sharn or a Ravenloft set bonus, legendary gear, but we want you to be as least survivable as possible.
I know a couple people that would win that.
I've probably ran with a few of them.
There's some people that you give build advice and then they hear like the exact opposite, like, "Oh, yeah. No fortification, okay."
It's pretty hard to do if you're getting the bonuses, the set bonuses. Like, how are you not getting fortification? And anyways, we're gonna wrap this week up here. Next week we'll finish our discussion. We're gonna talk about the Primal Sphere and Epic Completionist. and kind of how that works and why you should get it and why it's the easiest completionist you will ever get. But for now, we're gonna close things out here. So thanks to Voodoo and Nimvind. Voodoo, tell us about your stuff.
Hey, you can find me on YouTube and on Twitch. Channel Vooduspyce in both places. My YouTube channel, I believe, is the internet's largest source of DDO videos. There's over 850 quest walkthroughs and raid guides and crafting tutorials and fun series and all kinds of good stuff. And you can catch me live streaming nearly every day on my Twitch channel, Vooduspyce. Nimvind is often hanging out with me there, and my awesome guildies having fun as we grind through our past lives, and we do a lot of raiding there. So we're new player friendly. So if you have questions, we'd love to answer viewer questions. So check us out on YouTube channel Vooduspyce or Twitch channel Vooduspyce.
And you have you finished doing your Keep on the Borderlands walkthroughs?
They
Or
weren't
first time-
walkthroughs.
or
It was
the
just
first
first
time-
look.
yeah.
Yeah, it was the first look. Yep.
You pretty much always do a first look on new content, I think, right? Like
Yeah. So like, yeah, when new content comes out, like we flip the live stream on, like as soon as the servers come up, and you get to watch us stumble, trip, and fall as we figure out the new quest for the first time. It's a lot of fun.
I want to go back and watch your first look at Too Hot to Handle. Maybe Product Nemesis. I bet
No,
those are.
actually, I
yeah.
didn't post that. That was actually in a live stream. We live streamed it, but then I didn't like repost that later because it was just us dying as soon as we dropped down because everybody's like, "Let's do R1." I'm not kidding you.
No.
Yeah, and so
There's
it was
a
like,
developer in the chat making fun of us who.
That's funny.
it was ridiculous.
Mr. Nimvin, what do you got going on, sir?
I'm Nimvid, and I'm from your dreams. No, you can find me at twitch.tv/Nimvind, NIMVIND. Nimvind is a friend indeed. You can also catch me on YouTube, where I post DDO videos and other funny assorted fun videos at, Nimvind Space Dirge Singer. And that's where you find me. Oh, also on his stream.
Yeah. Nimvind apparently is working on being cast as the new. Was it Freddy Krueger? Is that the one that's in your nightmares?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
It's Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Except, I make you laugh, so it's better.
Hope so. Anyways, thanks, guys. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, or more on our website. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I am at DDOCast on Twitter. You can find Nimvind at NimvindDurge. If you'd like to join the discussion, leave a comment or email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your track rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate. Have fun, and don't forget to gather for bus.